Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is your host, Tom Pines. We're celebrating our 20th year on the air here at WQLN FM 91.3, WQLN NPR. And of course, this program is on NPR One, the WQLN website, and about a dozen other podcast venues, so we're easy to find in a place that's convenient for you. And today, I have Brian Slawin, Regional Director and Portfolio Manager of the Ben Franklin Technology Partners of Central and Northern PA. Greetings and welcome to the program. What a thrill to have you on again here at WQLN.
Well, it's my favorite radio station, Tom, so thanks for having me on.
Great. Since we last spoke, your title is the same. Could you give us your resume in brief and let folks know what your responsibilities are?
Sure. So I moved to Northwest Pennsylvania, specifically Erie, to be the Director and Portfolio Manager for the Ben Franklin Technology Partners. Did that 8 years ago, so November of 15. I made it through the Snowmageddon of 2017, and prior to that, I was in St. Louis living my entrepreneurial life, exited a company, and then took my interests and motivations and brought them to Pennsylvania, and could not be more thrilled to be working with the entrepreneurs in our community and all sorts of places on behalf of the Ben Franklin Technology Partnership.
Let's give the folks a structural view. First of all, where are you located?
Sure. So the Ben Franklin Technology Partners is a statewide or Commonwealth-wide initiative of the Commonwealth, and there are 4 Ben Franklin centers. The one in Pittsburgh, which everyone knows better as Innovation Works, covers the counties in the southwest corner of the Commonwealth. There's also our partners in Philadelphia that cover the southeast portion. Then we have our partners in the Bethlehem area that covered northeast. And then the organization that I work for, so the 4th center, is known as Central and Northern Pennsylvania, and we cover the territory from Erie in the northwest, which is where I am based, down through Mercer County, over to State College, out to Harrisburg and Lancaster, that area, and then to Johnstown and Altoona. So we cover 32 of the 67 counties right through the center of the state.
So technically, you're an initiative of the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, and then you have a funding mechanism, and I think that's called the Ben Franklin Technology Development Authority. Wow, that's a big, long phrase, almost a paragraph describing just what your structure is. It's much more simple than that. On a daily basis, what is your outreach like?
Sure. So my mission, all of the mission of everyone at the Ben Franklin Technology Partners is to, number one, find really innovative entrepreneurs. And then we invest in those entrepreneurs, especially their innovative products or processes. We also provide support and mentorship and resources for those entrepreneurs to take their idea, sometimes on a napkin, and bring it to life, commercialize that, and then grow. Our number one measurable metric is jobs creation. So if you've got an idea that you would like to found and then grow and then hire a bunch of people, Ben Franklin Technology Partners is probably your first stop in terms of getting all of the resources and access to that. In addition to those 2 components, we also providing programmatic support. So things like the Big Idea Contest and the Techcelerator program, and on and on and on. We help find people who kind of aren't looking for us. And so we're looking for them because we know that innovation is key to economic growth, and we're all about making a positive economic impact in the Commonwealth. And on top of all of that, we support the growth of entrepreneurial ecosystems. So it is so much harder to be a successful entrepreneur if you're just out there, swinging alone. So it's way better if you have a community that wraps around you. And we've certainly seen that in Erie, and we've seen that in other places within our territory, our center, if you will, of the Commonwealth. So those are the four things we do. We look for great entrepreneurs who are doing innovative things. We provide resources and capital, and then we provide the programmatic support to build entrepreneurial ecosystems.
I love the outline. Could you describe who we is? You're there at 4 outreach centers across the state. What happens here in Erie, Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania?
Sure. So the four of us in Northwest Pennsylvania and the Erie specifically, the Erie office, are four of 25 members of the Central and Northern Pennsylvania Ben Franklin Technology Partners.
Okay.
So there's me as the director, my colleague Mike Walster, who is an entrepreneur in residence. Just think of him as a Swiss Army knife that helps all kinds of companies doing all kinds of things. We also are fortunate enough to have the executive director of the Ben Franklin Learning Center, and that's Kathy Von Berglund, who's been with the Ben Franklin Technology Partners for well more than a decade. And then our general admin support is Heidi Sullivan, and Heidi Sullivan has been with the program for about 20 years. She knows where everything is and how to get at everything. She is really our rock and support. So that's the four of us in Northwest Pennsylvania. Our headquartered office is in State College in University Park, and there are a dozen or so folks in that office. There are a couple of portfolio managers, like what I do, and then there are other folks like our Central Skills team who provide, at no cost to the entrepreneur, financial support, legal support, HR support, business development support, and on and on. So our Central Skills team is really vital to everything that goes on throughout the entire Central and Northern Pennsylvania footprint. And we have folks in the Harrisburg-Lancaster area, and we also have folks in the Johnstown-Altoona area. So about 25 or so of us make up the Central and Northern Pennsylvania Ben Franklin Technology Partners.
Where does all the money come from for this valuable program?
Yeah, so a couple of places. One is we're a line item in the Commonwealth budget every year. Unfortunately, things are a little tight financially. So our budget has been higher, much higher, frankly, double in the past, and it is now significantly less than that. So we're still doing the work that we do as best that we can, but we have limited resources, like everybody has limited resources. We certainly are challenged by those as well. So that's kind of our annual budget, but we also have a balance sheet, right? So we've been at this for 40 plus years, and over that time we've made some very wise investments. So we have a bit of a balance sheet that we can operate off of, and that money is typically used to make direct investments into companies. When we do make an investment, sometime we have community partners, venture capital firms, angel firms, etc., that also want to invest side by side with us. So there are programs, co-investment funds. As an example, we have a partnership with Mercer County, and their economic development system has created a co-investment fund that we contribute to, that they contribute to, and that we take that money, sort of double up, if you will, and then provide resources to companies in Mercer County.
The value is that you're boosting the state's economy to a great amount of money, especially over the last few years. I'm seeing a number like 148,000 jobs generated. I'm seeing numbers like $25 billion. This is a fairly substantial entrepreneurial effort you're making.
Well, if the facts are to be believed, and we do, the Kauffman Center, which is sort of the center of the bowl, if you will, on entrepreneurial thinking, is based out of Kansas City. Most jobs, a vast majority, almost 90% of jobs are in small business. You think of the Fortune 500 and they've got tens and thousands. It's dwarfed by the number of jobs in the 5 to 10 to 15 employee per company range. So we really do support that small growth company that has a couple of people at the start, that really has an interesting idea, is very innovative, and can now go to market and grow. So our numbers, if you will, are 4-to-1. So what that means is for every dollar that the Commonwealth puts into the Ben Franklin Technology Program, we create, along with the entrepreneurs, obviously they're really the ones doing the work, a $4 impact, $4 positive impact on the economy of the Commonwealth. So imagine if you were an investor and you put in $1 and you got $4 back. You'd do that all day. You'd do it twice on Sunday.
Yep.
That's the kind of impact that we make, a 400 or 4x to 1 impact. And we're proud of that. We work very diligently along with our other economic development partners to create a really positive economic impact.
Let's say I have a neat idea. I'm all excited. How do I present this to you, and what is your criteria?
Sure. So the really neat thing about what we do in Northwest Pennsylvania is this idea called no wrong door. And the idea behind no wrong door is it doesn't matter, you're not required to understand how the system, quote unquote, the system works, right? Mm-hmm. All you have to know is to knock on my door, figuratively. You can call me or email me, but knock on my door, or the Erie Regional Chamber and Growth Partnership, or the Small Business Development Center at Gannon, or ETI, or at Radius, or at Paramount Pursuits, or EDDC, I mean, on and on and on and on and on, right? You just have to know one person, or Google one person, and reach out to them. Our responsibility with No Wrong Door, the idea behind No Wrong Door is, let's say you knock on the door of Kyra Taylor at Erie's Black Wall Street. And Kyra listens to you and says, you know what, you're the perfect kind of company that Ben Franklin likes to work with or can work with and support. Let me make an introduction to Brian, who can then help you. And so Kyra does that. I start working with the company, and ultimately, hopefully, there's enough there that we can provide capital and all the other resources that we provide. So the first step is simply knocking on someone's door, reaching out to someone in the economic development community and asking for help or asking for an introduction. Or maybe you don't know who to introduce to, so you spend 10 minutes telling your story to somebody, and they then are responsible for getting you to that next step. So no wrong door. It always starts off with that.
You beat me to my next question, and that is sometimes people feel different organizations are actually competing to accomplish this type of outreach, but you're indicating that you're partners with everyone. You're totally part of the community and any other organization that may be able to bring an entrepreneur to the forefront.
Yeah. Well, the facts are, Tom, that we are competing. But we're competing with Ohio and New York and West Virginia and California, right?
Okay.
So all of us within the Commonwealth are on the same team. We're on Team PA, if you will. And we work together so that the best and the brightest and the biggest opportunities ultimately land in Pennsylvania, or even better, grow in Pennsylvania. And specifically my interests are, the area that I described earlier, and make sure that we're providing the resources and the talent and the access to the kind of things that they need to help and grow. So, yeah, it is a competition, but it's us against the world.
It says here since 1983, you've invested in more than 4,500 technology-based companies. Now, they are all here in Pennsylvania. That's your objective. That's a lot of work. I know what someone's thinking. I make cookies. Can I qualify for some kind of technology investment if it has a technology side to it? Is that how this works?
Yeah, so really good question. The Ben Franklin Technology Partners invests in innovation. So we're always looking for kind of the next new application of technology or the next new market to go attack. So let's say that you're a cookie baker, right? What's the innovation? What is it that you're doing? It doesn't necessarily have to be technology-based, because we also invest in small manufacturers. So what's the innovation? What's new that you're doing about baking cookies? I will try to understand that as best I can, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure a baker necessarily fits into what we look for in terms of innovation, but I know for a fact there are three other organizations that can be helpful to you, even if Ben Franklin can't. It's fairly rare that Ben Franklin isn't able to support a company, but occasionally we can't. So we make sure, using that no wrong door idea, we make sure that they are put in the right place so that they can succeed. Listen, when someone's brave enough, finally, brave enough to share their idea with someone other than their spouse or their friend or their dog, right, you have to honor that. And we do. You really have to honor that, because it's kind of scary to say the thing out loud that you've been thinking about for days, months, years, to somebody that has the ability to, you hope, help you. And so we honor that, and we make sure that they get taken care of.
You may have the next Thomas Edison or Nikola Tesla floating around in your backyard with some crazy idea. Oh, and look what those two gentlemen have done for the country over the decades, so to speak. Does anything come to mind that was impactful? I guess maybe you're not allowed to describe businesses, but has something ever happened that really lit up the light bulb, so to speak?
Well, it's sort of like asking who's your favorite child.
Yeah.
And I actually could answer that question, but let me tell you a bit about the companies that we're privileged to work with. And they're spread out all over the Commonwealth, but just a couple in our area. There's a company named Sphere Brakes, which is run by a guy named Aaron Lewis. He founded the idea when he was in the military, and he was a maintenance person on various vehicles, and he really saw this problem with braking technology, and it was old, and it was inefficient, and it was expensive, and it was dirty, and it was heavy, and it was dangerous to work on. So he brought that idea back from his military service, and he shared it with us at Ben Franklin. And now he has a company that is doing business with the military. So he is a supplier to the military. And his braking technology is being asked for by many, many commercial, original equipment manufacturers, OEMs. So that's just one example. There's another example, a woman named Rebecca Stein. Rebecca used to own the restaurant Room 33, the restaurant bar Room 33 in downtown Erie. And of course, when the pandemic showed up, her liquor sales went to zero because you couldn't sell liquor to go or drinks to go. So she invented a company called Blind Tiger Spirit-Free Cocktails. And you can go to her website, Blind Tiger Spirit-Free Cocktails, and read about why it's called Blind Tiger. But that is technology too. So I've given you two examples of technology companies that are also manufacturing companies. So what Rebecca has done is taken advantage of this really, this exploding area in beverage production, the non-alcoholic beverage arena, and is doing super great. She's in 1,000 retail stores across the globe, and it's all being done right here. So some people say, well, where's the technology? It's like, well, the technology is in the way they create the formula. The technology is in the way they do packaging and the other kinds of things that aren't necessarily a website or an app, right? Technology is much broader than zeros and ones. It's things like what's going on at Sphere Brakes. It's things like what's going on at Blind Tiger. And another company, again, blending technology with manufacturing, is what's going on at PS Energy. So Carl Nicolia, a name many people know, realized that a lot of the heat energy in industrial furnaces is wasted and blown out the exhaust.
Yes.
And so what he initially developed was an insert into the exhaust pipe that would then recover that, what would be wasted heat, and use it for production, use it for heating up the materials inside of an industrial furnace. That already reduced about 30 to 40% of the cost of heat. So a significant cost enhancement or cost driver or cost reduction. Then he discovered there was an opportunity to monitor how efficient those furnaces are. And, through a lot of technology and a lot of engineering and a lot of really smart people, Carl has now become a technology company because he's providing this software platform for his customers. So there's a lot of not zeros and ones technology that we invest in, and obviously we invest in manufacturers as well. And I could go on and on and on. I mean, we literally have 150 companies, active companies in our portfolio today, and they're all doing one cool thing after another.
You must be doing something right. 40 years is quite a reputation. Today, it's hard to keep a government-funded organization going for long periods of time, and you've managed to do that. So the economic impact that I saw in the multi-millions of dollars obviously was benchmarked, measured, and you continue on. What kind of things are you seeing? And maybe you can't describe it specifically, but I'm talking about, is it aircraft? Is it automobile? Is it medical? Or are you seeing equal amounts or good amounts of any of those topics?
Yeah, I think what we're seeing really falls into 5 different what we call key industries. Those key industries are agriculture or agribusiness, if you will. We're seeing a lot of innovation in the agricultural world. It probably not, I can't probably mention it publicly, but there's a farmer very close to Erie, Pennsylvania, is doing something really innovative in organic farming. I'll leave it there. They'll come out eventually. So agribusiness, agriculture, the world is running out of food. Mm-hmm. And so how do we grow more food, less impact on the ecosystem of the world, and, less expensively? The second area that we see is in the energy sector. Mm-hmm. We really, in Pennsylvania, have an abundant and diverse energy portfolio that, frankly, powers our economy. We made a significant investment in Mercer County into a company called Advanced Power and Energy, along with our partners at the Mercer County Innovation Fund. And their product is really I'll call it a bit revolutionary in terms of how they produce, manage, and distribute energy. The life sciences is an area that we are really, really attacking in a significant way. You'll hear in the Northwest, you'll hear in the next few months a number of companies that are attacking the cancer challenge. Mm-hmm. Another company that's attacking intravascular occlusions, basically blood clots and those sorts of things that get inside of your veins, and a number of others. We have a couple of companies that are doing things with visual acuity challenges. Of course, manufacturing is the heart and soul of the Pennsylvania economy since forever. We have a laser focus on manufacturing, a number of super interesting companies in our region. And then broadly, robots and technology, or robotics and technology. And so that's something that we've been doing, forever, investing in technology and manufacturing. So those are the 5 areas that we're really focused on. I think one of the things that people are really intrigued by is AI and how that's being used.
Yes.
And so we're really intrigued by companies that are using AI as a tool to enhance a platform or to enhance a business. That's super interesting to us. And so we're working with a number of companies who have an AI component to what they do. So, every day my colleagues and I are so privileged to meet these super bright people doing super interesting things, and we get to help them. And that's a really privileged position to be in.
And the state benchmarks you by how much money that you are bringing in or what your companies are generating in the economy. I see a number like $2 billion several years ago. These are intricate and very profitable businesses. It seems like your outcomes are very large dollars.
Well, they are. You mentioned earlier the Ben Franklin Technology Partners has created a $26 billion economic impact on the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I mean, that's real money. Right?
Beyond belief. What a successful
$1 here,
program.
$1 there.
How many nonprofits or government agencies can advertise that kind of success? Before we get too far, let's say someone wants to talk with you, maybe gain some insight, or they have an idea. What is the procedure? What's the best way?
Yeah, so the easiest way is if you go to the benfranklin.org website. That's benfranklin.org. And then you click on the button that says Regional Partners. You click on that and scroll down, you'll see the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And so all you have to do is click on the county that you live in, and it'll take you to the appropriate website. If you're trying to get a hold of me specifically, you'll want to go to, again, benfranklin.org, click on the Regional Partners, and then click on Central and Northern PA. And once you get there, you'll be able to find my name, my email address, my phone number, and, reach out and we can have a discussion and we'll figure it out from there.
Well, you're following along in Ben Franklin's original philanthropic interest in that he always wanted to benefit young tradesmen, getting people to go into business.
Right.
Last question in the last minute here. Any idea too small? Should people judge themselves or should they call and ask for your advice?
Always call. Always call. Because in what you're saying, you may not recognize the scale that it can grow to. My colleagues at Ben Franklin Technology Partners are trained and have lots of experience to understand the core opportunity inside of sometimes there's a wrapper around it. So once you get an idea in your head and you've thought it through a little bit or you need some support, the easiest thing is to just call, because I'll make sure that it's either a Ben Franklin thing and we'll move forward, or I'll give you some options for resources that you can go, I'll make the introductions so that you can go do what it is that you want to do. So, I say this to our regional partners all the time. They're like, well, what's a Ben Franklin thing? I'm like, everything is a Ben Franklin thing. I want to talk to as many entrepreneurs as possible because we'll find the pathway together and make sure that they get taken care of. So that's the idea behind No Wrong Door, and it's what we do every single day at the Ben Franklin Technology Partners.
Well, I've been told that you're a serial entrepreneur yourself, and one of the things you do is help other people become successful.
Yeah.
Well, what a pleasure speaking with you today again, and I hope we can get you on over the summer again and talk a little bit more about some of the more successful projects, if that's possible. So thank you very much for your time
Always,
today.
Tom.
A very fine presentation. We look forward in the future to hearing from you again. Thank you.
Tom, thank you, and to all the listeners of WQLN, I appreciate the opportunity and support public radio. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did it great.
It's that time of year. The Great TV Auction is back. May 16th through the 19th, you can support WQLN, PBS, NPR's mission to be a passport to discovery on television, radio, and in our community. You won't want to miss your chance to bid on amazing prizes from our supporters. Tune in to the bidding frenzy and help make a difference. Head over to WQLN.org/auction to see the items up for grabs and learn more about the bidding.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zomorodi, and each week on NPR's TED Radio Hour, we go on a journey with TED speakers, where we'll ask big questions.
And that we truly have to ask ourselves, why is it noteworthy?
That will inspire us, challenge us, and even change us.
I literally feel like I'm a different person. Do you feel that way?
I did. Join us.
Sunday morning at 10 on WQLN NPR.
WQLN PBS is the home of Erie's Emmy-nominated historical docuseries, Chronicles. As we continue through Season 2, Chronicles explores the stories of notable Erieites that time has largely forgotten. From the father of the wind chill, Paul Seipel, to the Civil War hero Strong Vincent, and the lesser-known military strategist John Boyd, join us as we bring these stories to life. Stream past episodes anytime on WQLNchronicles.com. Chronicles is made possible with the support of Spring Hill Senior Living, the Erie County Gaming Revenue Authority, and the Erie Community Foundation.
Hey, it's Ari Shapiro. There's a whole world out there, and it's ready to be listened to.
Those are tundra swans.
Tundra swans.
They used to be called whistling swans.
All Things Considered from NPR News brings you the news of the day and so much more. Keep listening to All Things Considered every day.
Weekdays at 4 on WQLN NPR.
Welcome to We Question and Learn. This is Tom Pies. Our program is now celebrating its 20th year. Today, a very special guest, part of Community Heart and Soul. As a matter of fact, he is the president of Community Heart and Soul, Mark Sherman. And Community Heart and Soul is now in 125 towns and cities across the United States. Let's start from scratch with that, because what interested me incredibly about this whole topic is that you're in huge support of small town America. And I think to some degree, the little towns around Erie and across this country, and you're up in the great Northeast, you have dozens of little towns up there, they get neglected to some degree. And I think you folks have a concept that helps develop how great it is and how important it is to maintain a good philosophy of life in small town America. Did I do your speech for you?
You did. Thank you very much, Tom. Did you have any other questions today?
No, I think we can wrap it up. I know I was so impressed with what you did, and the concept is, I guess, not unique, but explain how you got started with this and how the Orton Family Foundation got started.
So, and we do go by the name Community Heart and Soul, which is both the name of our organization now and the program. But for me personally, I did grow up in small town, Vermont, and it was a great experience for me. And like a lot of my peers, at a certain age, I had sort of a wanderlust, and for me, it involved going out to the West Coast and living in the city of Seattle. But I always felt the heartstrings of my experience in Vermont, of living in a small town, kind of tugging at me, and that was true for my wife as well. And so after many years out west, kind of going to graduate school and experiencing some job opportunities that might not have been available to me here, we fulfilled our dream, which was to come full circle and come back. And that experience was just very powerful for me because, at one point I thought, it's a big concern for small towns when they lose a lot of the youth, when they decide to move away. And what can we do to make it more enticing for them to stay? And my thinking, based on my own experience, has kind of shifted. I think it's more about trying to get people to return home with their families, with their careers, with their credentials, their degrees, their entrepreneurial ideas, and help take their communities, their small towns to the next level. And so it's all very personal for me. I'm thrilled to be in this position. I'm thrilled to be promoting small town America because I really think that it's a wonderful thing and it captures a lot of the American spirit. And so I've been with the organization for about 4 years now, and I am just thrilled to be in this role.
You're going to be very welcome here because this is small town Northwest Pennsylvania, going from Corey and, oh my gosh, Meadville. And let's start right with Meadville. What a wonderful place. I know some very prominent people there. I know some great manufacturers there, but Meadville has a special interest to you. Am I right?
Well, Pennsylvania at large has a real strong interest to us. We have, I think at last count, 16 communities, heart and soul communities, in the state of Pennsylvania, Meadville being one of them. And we have a wonderful partner there that is called PA Humanities, Pennsylvania Humanities, which really zeroed in on the storytelling aspect. I know we're going to talk about the heart and soul process, but one of the key elements of it is gathering stories from the community to understand what matters most to the residents. And in the case of Meadville, like all the other Pennsylvania communities, there were very strong interests in strengthening both the social and economic fabric of the community. And so in Meadville, some of that involved, updating the zoning so that historic preservation was more of a priority, improving walkability and so on. But it's just one of many, many stories that is unique to each community having its own interests, its own vision, its own actions.
So how did you get something like this started?
Storytelling, I mentioned, is a key aspect of the community heart and soul process. And one of the things that I think really captures the imagination of a lot of folks who are interested in revitalizing their small towns are the stories that we tell. And we disseminate the stories a number of different ways. In fact, this is a new way through the airwaves, and we're very excited about this. We certainly publish a lot of information about community heart and soul, but we're very passionate about our work, so we actively promote and market the program through a website, through social media. We do a lot of events, and we rely on our network of partners and coaches, the folks that actually guide the communities at the local level through the heart and soul process to evangelize, to spread the word. So there are a lot of different ways that we get the word out, and this is one of them.
Do you actually go to these towns and inaugurate meetings, have cheerleading sessions? I'm trying to picture what this looks like physically. You probably travel quite a bit.
Well, we do. So probably just to give you a little context, our organization is 13 people, so it's rather modest, but we're in over 125 communities across the country now. And the way that we scale is that we have a network of heart and soul coaches. So our focus is to develop the program and then train the coaches. There are over 80 coaches nationwide. And the coaches are the ones that work in the communities, and we work elbow to elbow with them. We support them. We make sure that they really understand the program and support them. But that model of training the trainer and then working with the coaches in the field allows us to scale. And so to answer your question, my staff travels a lot. They are on the road pretty much all the time between supporting communities and spreading the word. In fact, a group of us were just out west this last week introducing Heart and Soul in Spokane, Washington at a very large event. And so that's a very common practice for us. So we do travel a lot. And it's probably worth saying a little about the program itself, because sometimes it can be a little bit abstract. What exactly is Community Heart and Soul? Would you like me to explain the program?
Yes, exactly.
I'll just give you kind of high-level background here. So we're a community development program. Most of our communities have populations of 30,000 or less. Many of them are much, much smaller on the lower end of the population scale. But we work in communities up to about 30,000. And the way it works is we have these three core principles. And one is to involve everyone. One is to focus on what matters most. And then the third is to play the long game. And so these principles are, part of the Heart and Soul process, which is a 4-phase trained curriculum that we put towns through. And it's a resident-driven process, and this is a really key element of our approach, which is it is totally nonpartisan. We don't have any political, social, or religious agenda. We're simply a framework that helps a community identify its priorities and then turn those into actions. So that's the Heart and Soul process in a nutshell. We engage all of the residents in identifying what they love about their community, what future that they want for it, and how to achieve it. And that, in essence, is what Heart and Soul is all about. And so it's a blueprint, it's a roadmap for communities to follow, to increase the civility and pride within their community, to increase volunteerism, to make the communities more economically attractive, to basically enact what the residents want to make livability more attractive and more fulfilling for the residents. And we work in partnership with town government. I should add that as well. Even though it's resident driven, we absolutely want town government to have a seat at the table. one of the things that you mentioned earlier about getting out in the field, within a community, the way we do that is rather than bringing people to the table, which is an expression that you hear people use a lot, we bring the table to the people. And we do that by organizing heart and soul block parties. We meet in businesses, at schools and churches, at outings, wherever the folks may congregate. We go to them. And part of the reason we do that is we're super committed to engaging all of the hidden and missing voices. So we work very hard to extend our program into the community so that we get input from everyone, not just the folks who would ordinarily go to, for example, a planning commission meeting. And hopefully that gives you a feel for what the program's all about.
Here's the biting question. How do you fundraise? How do you manage your money?
Well, it's probably helpful to give you a little background on the organization, and then I can talk about how the towns handle the funding, because the program does have some costs. Our funding at the Community Heart and Soul comes from our founder, and he's a retired businessman. His name is Lyman Orton, and he was the proprietor of the Vermont Country Store, which is a very successful business that is now operated by his sons. And just to give you context for how this all got started, as a successful businessman, Lyman was invited to be on the planning commission in the small town of Weston, Vermont, population 600. And a very divisive proposal came before the planning commission, and very few people turned up for the meeting, and it passed. And it had to do with building a wildlife theme park on the side of a mountain. And it really, as Lyman is fond of saying, the scars on the side of the mountain healed much more quickly than the scars within the community, because when it passed, a lot of people were very upset, and of course the business failed. And so Lyman had the insight that there had to be a better way to engage the community in defining what their priorities were and the future of their community. And that was the genesis of Community Heart and Soul. So to answer your question, he is our funder. So he has funded this organization for over 20 years. Now the communities themselves are expected to fund Community Heart and Soul in part, and some of that comes through local partners, local nonprofits, community foundations, and other organizations. Sometimes town government is a contributor to the Heart and Soul costs. But we also contribute as well through a grant program that we have called the Seed Grant Program.
Yes.
And that allows communities to apply for a $10,000 matching grant, and that helps defray a lot of the startup costs for Heart and Soul.
How enthusiastic is a town when they meet you? Do you do a lot of pre-visit public relations? Is it word of mouth? You get involved with everyone when you come into a town.
Well, yeah, having attended a lot of these myself, the answer to your question is they're extremely enthusiastic once the word gets out. So we do these introductory sessions that we call Getting Started. And we'll go into a community, and oftentimes the coach will be the catalyst, the Heart and Soul coach that we train. They'll organize these events. They'll invite folks. They're typically, physical, although sometimes virtual. And they'll introduce the program. And then there's typically a core group of individuals within the community that forms what we call the leadership team, the Heart and Soul leadership team. And they organize follow-up meetings. They identify all the different groups within the community that need to participate in the process. We work very hard, as I mentioned earlier, to identify all of the hidden and missing voices. And from that point on, it's really the residents that drive the process. But as I mentioned, town government is a participant as well. We have municipal officials, we have partners, and the enthusiasm builds. And part of the reason it builds, Tom, is because we focus on the positive. We're not there to air a bunch of grievances or to try and fix things that are broken. We're really talking about what inspires folks, what are their hopes and their dreams, what do they want for their community. And the thing that unites them all is they live in that community. And a lot of the differences that they may experience, politically or otherwise, dissipate when they focus on what they really care about and what they have in common, which is the love for their community. So we count on local government to be a partner in the process. just like we have other partners like PA Humanities and other nonprofit organizations, it's absolutely essential that they have a seat at the table. And the typical sequence is when a community decides to do Community Heart and Soul, they bring a resolution before town government, and it's passed to show the support of the town government. So that's the way that we approach it. We absolutely, even though it's a resident-driven process, we know that it's very important to have that partnership with local government. And the way that I would think about it as a town official is, here's an opportunity to have very deep community engagement, civic engagement, so that you have a better pulse on what the community really wants. You know, the Heart and Soul process starts with folks focusing on the future that they want for the community. And a lot of that is captured through storytelling, right? So they tell deep stories about, the future that they want and what they really care about. Those stories become what we call Heart and Soul statements. And the Heart and Soul statements, some folks call them value statements. They really reflect the values of that particular community. Well, I mentioned earlier that we were founded by a retired businessman, Lyman Orton, and Lyman's very focused on actions. And he wanted to make sure that it didn't end there with the values, that we took it all the way to an action plan. So once those values are identified, the community puts together a very specific set of actions. And the action plan is then, shared with the community. We get this right, we understand the priorities. And the actions could be any range of things. They could be things like, building, some hiking trails, or a river walk, or it could be a beautification process for the downtown of the community. They may be wanting to support the local school, picking up uniforms for the band, or any number of things. It's a broad range of actions, and those actions become basically a blueprint for what the community really values and cares about. So for a municipal official, they basically now have a blueprint for what the community really cares about, and that makes their job quite a bit easier, because they know where to place their bet, how to invest in ways that will really strengthen the community. Another byproduct of the process is that we see a lot more volunteerism occur, and a lot of new leaders emerge. So you get a lot of young folks deciding that they want to be part of that municipal process as well. So it's a process that's intended to involve local officials, but it is the residents who are really setting the agenda, saying these are our priorities and this is what we want for our future.
Do you have a business plan, or better yet, a template? There seems to be, and I'm going to guess, you have a wonderful structure. You've designed something. You have a definite business plan?
That's exactly right, Tom. I think a lot of the communities that see neighboring towns revitalize and experience, sort of economic growth and stronger social, benefits. They want to know how to do it. And the great thing is this is a structured process. So the answer is you follow this series of steps. And again, we're guided, they're guided through the process by a coach. So we have basically a curriculum. We have a very structured process that we walk the community through. It's not abstract at all. It is step one, we call it phase one, phase two, phase three, phase four. They go through the process and then they're off and running. It's an ongoing practice. It's not a one-off. It basically changes the way that they do business in the future, but it is a very detailed and structured process, to answer your question.
When Ben Spagan of the Jefferson Educational Society mentioned this to me, the first thing I thought, it had to be structured. It had to have a written, let's say outline, treatise, whatever you want to call it. And the third thing that really got me going is that you are in, or this network involves over 125 communities so far?
That's right, and growing. Our vision is for it to expand to hundreds of communities across the United States. People ask why, and the answer is because we believe in it. We're very passionate about this work. And so some of the enthusiasm you asked about earlier comes from my team. We're extremely enthusiastic about this. We want to share it. We think it's a really good thing. We think it's transformative, not just transactional. And it, by the way, it doesn't just transform the communities, it often transforms the partners that work with us to help implement it. There are all kinds of examples of community foundations and others citing PA Humanities is a great example in Pennsylvania, talking about how this work has transformed the way that they do business. So we're quite passionate about it, and our vision is for this to expand to hundreds of new communities in the coming years.
So you have a two-pronged business plan. You have to go into the communities, introduce the program, help them any way you can, yet you need to grow your organization, parent organization, so that it can extend beyond the 125, so to speak, that you have already. So you do this with 13 people, and where are they located?
Well, just to clarify one point, we do expand the impact of the organization. Our staff is pretty stable. It's the 13 folks. Several of them are based here in Vermont, but we do have people in other parts of the country. We have somebody based in New Jersey, somebody in Maine, and we're about to, we just hired somebody in Indiana. But the real answer to the question of growth comes through the network of certified coaches. So we have a very rigorous training program for these heart and soul coaches. It's both online and in person. It takes months for them to complete, and it's, like I said, it's quite rigorous. And so as we expand the network of coaches, which is currently around 80 and growing, that's how we sustain, that's how we support the growth and scalability of our program without having to increase the size of our staff.
And you mentioned your funding sources, one of which, the main one, I believe, the Orton Family Foundation, and whatever other local participation you can garner.
Right. Yeah. All of our funding comes from Lyman Orton, who is the founder of our organization, and then the funding for the communities again is done locally and through grants that we provide. We do these matching grants that communities apply for, and that helps get the process off the ground.
Where do you see this in another 2, 3, 5 years?
I see this growing rapidly. I'm not going to use the word exponentially because
yes, it's tough.
That's overused.
Yeah.
But I would not be at all surprised if if we have this conversation in 2 or 3 years, if we're at 200 or more communities nationwide. There's a tremendous amount of interest. We've really zeroed in on something that the communities are interested in and that the partners are interested in. One of the things that we found is, in particular, these community foundations that are focused on particular regions of the country, and there are hundreds of these all over the United States.
Yes, and we have one of the best right here in Erie, Pennsylvania, as you know.
You have a terrific one there as well. And they know their communities. We're in a part of the country where we know our local area, but we certainly don't know the other regions of the country. We depend on those partners to guide us in connecting with the folks that would be most interested in this. And they have resources. Many of them put their own staff through our coach training so they can do the coaching. And then they also help support the local communities with funding. And, by definition, the foundations are there in perpetuity. And so they're not going anywhere. So they're ideal partners for us. They're ideal partners for the communities. In fact, the trip that I referenced earlier that a lot of our staff took to Spokane, Washington, was sponsored by a community foundation there called Innovia, which serves 20 counties.
Yes. Let's summarize a few things before time totally runs out on us. You are a nonprofit or not-for-profit organization supported by the Orton Foundation. You work diligently to help support communities, and I know that I have missed 1 or 2 or a half dozen questions that the listeners are interested in. How can they get in touch with you, even just to ask a question or two?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that. Well, first of all, we have a wonderful website. It's communityheartandsoul.org.
Yes.
So communityheartandsoul.org. And there's all kinds of information, resources about the program, about the work. There are stories about communities that have been through it. There are testimonials, there are videos. There also is a great a resource on the website for how communities that are interested in getting started can connect with a coach, can apply for one of our seed grants, and so on. So we have a ton of information there. They can also call our organization. We'd be happy to speak to any of them. There's, they can email us. We'll get in touch with folks. So there's a lot of ways to connect. We have a partner in Pennsylvania that's very, very involved in all of the communities, the dozen and a half communities and growing in Pennsylvania that do Heart and Soul, and that's PA Humanities. Mm-hmm. And they would be a wonderful organization as well to contact. They've got a great website where they talk about all their Heart and Soul towns, including Meadville, the one that you asked about, and many, many others. Mm-hmm. So there's a great way to connect with us. And I'm sorry, was there another part to the question that
No, you okay. More than answered everything. What I was afraid of is that I may have missed some critical component to all the outreach that you do. You have a good plan. You deal in, I call small town America. You help folks become healthy. You actually do some grants. May I mention or ask about that?
Absolutely. So the SEED grant program, SEED as in we plant a seed and the program takes off, provides $10,000 in funding from us to the community. We do require a match, a cash match, and the communities are able to match that through any number of different sources, sometimes through partners, sometimes just local fundraising, sometimes the towns kick in. And the grant program is just a way of helping the communities, because they do retain a coach. They hire a coach unless they're able to get the coaching through a partner like PA Humanities, in which case oftentimes the coaching is provided for free. And then there's a project coordinator that's a very important individual that kind of keeps the process moving locally. And there are some nominal project expenses, and there are things like maybe childcare during a meeting, a community meeting, or pizza, or poster boards, or pens, and that sort of thing. But the funding is something that we never want to get in the way of communities that want to do this work, which is why we launched the SEED grant program. So a lot of information. We've tried to make the application process and review very easy. It's on a rolling basis, so we consider applications whenever they come in, and we make decisions rather quickly. So it's a pretty simple process.
I strongly advise people to go to communityheartandsoul.org. Any last comments that you'd like people to know or to think about in improving their little town?
Yeah, I think if there's a headline, it's that this Community Heart and Soul process is really all about helping communities identify what they care most about and then turning those into actions, so that the communities are places that people want to remain in or return to. It's really about strengthening both the social and the economic fabric of the community. It's not one or the other, it's both. And we really think we have a winning formula. It's one that really unites communities, addresses a lot of, I think, some of the stresses that communities are going through right now, brings people together, builds pride, civility, all the kinds of things that are transformative, that are long-lasting. And we'd love to share it with more and more folks in your audience, and I'm hoping that we'll have an opportunity to come back and give you an introduction to some of the people within these communities who can talk about their experiences.
I can't wait to invite you back and hear a more detailed story, so to speak, so folks can understand exactly how these things can work for them. All right.
We'd love to do that, Tom.
Thank you very much.